Hello and welcome to BYJU'S IAS. Let's get started with the analysis of today's The Hindu newspaper, beginning with a news item on page number 1 of the Delhi edition of The Hindu. Jharkhand polls to be held in 5 phases, results on December 23. From this newspaper article, you need to understand what is Model Code of Conduct. Because as soon as the election dates are announced by the Election Commission, Model Code of Conduct enters into force and it remains in force till the declaration of results. What is this Model Code of Conduct? We have discussed this in detail in our 31st January 2019 The Hindu newspaper analysis. The link to this video lecture is provided in the video description. Please go through that video lecture and everything related to Model Code of Conduct would become crystal clear to you. What is Model Code of Conduct? What is the origin of Model Code of Conduct? What are the various provisions of Model Code of Conduct? How effectively Model Code of Conduct is working in Indian elections? Do we need certain changes in Model Code of Conduct? Should there be a statutory backing to Model Code of Conduct? All this and much more has been explained in 31st January The Hindu newspaper analysis. Please go through that video lecture. Now let's look at another news on page number 1. WhatsApp did not inform government of system breach. There are reports that WhatsApp was used to spy on 1,400 people across 20 countries of the world. In India too, WhatsApp was used to spy on journalists, Dalit activists and human rights activists. How? Through a spyware tool named Pegasus. Pegasus is developed by an Israeli firm, NSO Group, and now WhatsApp has sued this Israeli group called NSO. Now WhatsApp is owned by Facebook and it has close to 1.5 billion users worldwide. Around 400 million users are in India. And India is WhatsApp's biggest market. That is why this newspaper article matters more. But how this Pegasus works? It sends a link. If the targeted users click on the link, the malware is installed on the phone. How? Let me give you a few examples. A link is sent and these links are clickbaity. That means you are inclined to click on these links. How? Links have been sent to various individuals that their spouse is involved in an extramarital affair. These are the photographs confirming that affair. Since this link is clickbaity, an individual is forced to click on these links, and when you click on this link, this Pegasus software or malware is installed on your phone. Or a link is sent to an individual that his daughter is there in a hospital, you need to visit her. When you click on this link, this Pegasus spyware is installed on the phone. And once Pegasus software is installed, the attacker has complete access to the phone. How? The attacker has access to your phone book, messages, passwords, including the phone's microphone can be used to have a complete surveillance on you. That means all your movements, whom you talk to, what you speak, all this will be monitored by the attacker. That means your phone is a complete surveillance tool for the attacker. In some cases, even if the users do not click on these links, even then Pegasus software is installed. How? In some cases, if a user receives an incoming WhatsApp call, which was not even answered, even then this Pegasus malware or spyware is installed on your phone. This is very, very scary. But how can such spyware have the potential to do this? This is where it is important for you to know about zero-day exploit. Can be a potential statement for your prelims examination. What is this zero-day exploit? This zero-day exploit is a completely unknown vulnerability. That means a flaw in the software code. And about this complete vulnerability, even the software manufacturer is not aware. For example, the Safari browser of Apple, Android, the manufacturers of these software tools, they're not even aware that there is a lacuna, there is a loophole in our software code, and this loophole is exploited by the attacker. That is what we call zero-day exploit. And when the software manufacturer is not even aware of this vulnerability, that means the software manufacturer cannot fix this loophole. And this vulnerability was exploited by the Israeli firm NSO Group to spy on targeted users. When WhatsApp found out about this, it fixed this vulnerability. And according to WhatsApp spokesperson, it informed the targeted users as well as the governments concerned. WhatsApp spokesperson says it has informed CERTIN, which is Computer Emergency Response Team, which is responsible for all these cyber attacks and their prevention in this country. But government says we were not informed. And government has now asked WhatsApp to explain how this has happened and what are the steps WhatsApp is taking to prevent the occurrence of such events, to protect the privacy of the Indian users. But how did Pegasus exploit WhatsApp? That's $1 million question, because WhatsApp has always taken pride in end-to-end encryption. That means, for example, if I'm a WhatsApp user, you're also a WhatsApp user, we are transmitting messages to each other. These messages cannot be read by anybody, not even the WhatsApp. That is what we call end-to-end encryption. So if WhatsApp boasts about this end-to-end encryption, how did Pegasus exploit WhatsApp? That's $1 million question. In fact, WhatsApp has been asked by governments many a times in the past that we need decrypted messages so that we can know the origin of fake news to tackle fake news menace in this country. We need these decrypted messages to prevent a terror attack. But WhatsApp has all along denied giving out this information, denied giving out these decrypted messages, because WhatsApp says privacy of its customers is of paramount significance to them. But here is another big news. NSO, which is this Israeli firm, it says that its sole purpose is to provide technology, that too to government agencies, so that these government agencies can help fight terrorism and serious crimes. And NSO charges huge money for its surveillance. For example, in Ghana, NSO was paid $8 million for its services. So who in India can afford millions of dollars to spy on journalists, human rights activists, Dalit activists, so on and so forth? That's why some people are saying that since the fee of NSO is very high, and targeted individuals in India are journalists, human rights activists, Dalit activists, it's the government which is involved in all of this. As NSO says that we provide services, such services of surveillance to only government intelligence and law enforcement agencies. That is why there is also a column in today's The Hindu newspaper which says, forget about what government is telling WhatsApp or WhatsApp is communicating back to the government. We need to solve this issue by looking at the money trail. Who paid money to NSO? And once this is clear, it becomes absolutely crystal clear to who has roped in NSO agency to spy on Indian citizens. That is what you need to understand from this newspaper article. Now let's look at another news on page number 1. Health emergency declared in the capital. Hospitals have been reporting respiratory and eye problems as air quality enters severe plus category. Now what is AQI? Air Quality Index. This index is used by the government to communicate to the people how polluted the air is or how polluted the air is going to be in the future. In India, AQI was launched in the year 2014 under Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. If the air quality is within the range of 0 to 50, we say the quality of air is good. If it is in the range of 51 to 100, we say the air quality is satisfactory. Between 101 to 200, moderately polluted. If it is between 201 to 300, we say the air quality is very poor. If it is 401 to 500, we say the air quality is severely polluted. And if it is above 500, it comes under severe plus category. Air quality index of 999 is the maximum level that these AQI monitors can record. Last year, around the time of Diwali and afterwards, the air quality index at many places in Delhi was 999. That means that it could have been even more than 999. But since the AQI monitors can record up to a maximum of 999, that means the air quality in Delhi around the time of Diwali is severely polluted, and that is why it calls for health emergency in Delhi. And this time around, the air quality index has been way beyond 484 at multiple places. 504 was the overall AQI score of Delhi at 3:30 a.m. That is why health emergency was imposed and schools have been asked to remain shut till November 5. Arvind Kejriwal, the Delhi Chief Minister, says the pollution level in Delhi because of the Diwali firecrackers was less. So pollution in Delhi is primarily because of stubble burning. Stubble burning in the neighboring states of Punjab and Haryana. Let's understand what the stubble burning exercise is all about. Paddy is harvested. Paddy season is over. Paddy is to be harvested. Paddy is harvested, and what is left is residue. And now this residue needs to be removed. Why this residue needs to be removed? Because we have to now sow wheat because it's the wheat season. The easiest way to remove the residue is burn it. And that's what we call stubble burning. This stubble burning is a problem in areas where combined harvesting is employed. What are these combines? These combines are basically machines that harvest. That means separate the grain and also clean the separated grain all at once. There is one problem because of these combines. These combines, they do not cut close enough to the ground. When they do not cut close enough to the ground, it leaves a stubble. And now this land should be cleared to make way for the next crop, which is wheat. And what is the cheapest way to clean this ground? Burn this stubble. And the smoke coming out from the stubble burning travels to North Delhi as well, and it results in severe smog and pollution in Delhi as well. That is why Delhi Chief Minister says pollution in Delhi today is not only because of the Diwali firecrackers, but because of stubble burning in the neighboring states of Punjab and Haryana. So what is the alternative to stubble burning? The alternative is THS. What is this THS? Turbo Happy Seeder. Turbo Happy Seeder, it is a machine that is mounted on a tractor. It not only cuts and uproots the stubble, but it also drills so that wheat seeds are sown on the soil. That means the alternative to stubble burning is, let's employ these turbo happy seeders because it not only cuts the stubble, it not only uproots the stubble, it also drills the land so that wheat seeds are sown in the soil. But the problem is THS is costly. It costs 1.3 lakhs to a farmer. So why should a farmer opt for this costly option when a much cheaper alternative is available, which is simply burn the stubble? So what's the solution? The solution is, number one, Uberization of agriculture. What Uber did in private cab industry, that's what Uberization of agriculture should also do. So these turbo happy seeders should be provided to farmers on rent basis. That is what Uberization of agriculture will do. Second, we need to find alternatives to the use of stubble. Where can we use the stubble so that farmers, instead of burning the stubble, may sell the stubble? Because this stubble can be used for making beds for our livestock, can be used for thatching, can be used for producing biomass as well. And this biomass can in turn generate electricity. That is how we should be in a position to tackle this menace of stubble burning. And over a period of time, pollution because of stubble burning can be reduced to a large extent in the northern parts of our country. That is what you need to understand from this newspaper article. Now let's look at another news on page number 12. Jammu and Kashmir has now been formally divided and bifurcated into two union territories. Union territory of Jammu and Kashmir and the Union territory of Ladakh. There are two important things that you need to understand from this newspaper article. Number one, if this is MHA, Ministry of Home Affairs, it has 6 departments under it. Which are these 6 departments? Number 1, Department of Home. Number 2, Department of Official Language. Department of State. Department of Internal Security. Department of Border Management. And previously, there used to be Department of Jammu and Kashmir Affairs. Now this department has been changed. The name of this department has been changed to Jammu, Kashmir and Ladakh Affairs. That is one thing that you need to understand from this newspaper article. Another thing is related to Armed Forces Special Powers Act. This AFSPA has been in force in the state of Jammu and Kashmir when armed insurgency broke out in the state in early 1990. What happens under AFSPA? The security forces enjoy immunity. What sort of immunity? They can arrest any individual on mere suspicion. They can shoot anybody even if it results in the death of an individual, that too on mere suspicion. The security forces can conduct search operations anywhere in Jammu and Kashmir even without any warrant issued by the magistrate. And whatever security forces do in this disturbed area of Jammu and Kashmir, they have an immunity under Armed Forces Special Powers Act. That means they cannot be charge sheeted without the permission from the Defense Ministry. Human rights activists, Kashmir politicians, they claim that AFSPA is a draconian law because under the garb of this immunity, human rights violations have been committed. And many committees were set up to humanize Armed Forces Special Powers Act. For example, BP Jeevan Reddy Committee, it also suggested that AFSPA should be revoked. The former Home Minister P. Chidambaram said, even if we should not remove AFSPA, but we should make it more humane. How? This immunity cover should be taken away if the security forces are committing draconian acts such as rape or custodial torture or custodial murder, so on and so forth. But AFSPA has not been touched. AFSPA remains the way it was. But who had and now who has the power to have a final say on Armed Forces Special Powers Act? It will be the Home Ministry. Previously, Home Ministry or the Governor had the power to designate, to notify AFSPA in the state of Jammu and Kashmir. Now the entire power has been reasserted with the Home Ministry. Home Ministry will have the final say on Armed Forces Special Powers Act. That means when it can be revoked, when it can be taken away, when it can be humanized, when it can be reformed. All these decisions will now rest with the Ministry of Home Affairs. That is what you need to understand from this newspaper article. Now let's look at another news on page number 13. Joblessness rises to 3-year high. But we will discuss this newspaper article slightly later because we will cover a related editorial on the same topic as well. Let's look at another news. Electoral bonds worth 232 crore were sold in October alone, according to Association for Democratic Reforms. What are these electoral bonds basically? The then Finance Minister Arun Jaitley said, we need clean money so that this clean money should fund our political parties, should fund our electoral process in this country, because we don't want black money to fund electoral process in this country. And for that, electoral bonds were introduced. What are these electoral bonds? Let's say, for example, you are an individual or a company. You want to donate to a political party. What you have to do, you have to approach State Bank of India. State Bank of India will issue a bond which can be worth 1 crore. So if you have to buy this bond, you have to buy this bond either through check or through digital transaction. That means through net banking, for example. And once you get this bond, you can deposit it into the bank account of a political party. And this bank account will be under the auspices of the Reserve Bank of India. But this bond is a bearer bond. What does that mean? That means when this individual deposits this bond in the bank account of a political party, this political party will never know who donated money to me. That means all this transaction is anonymous. That's point number one. Point number two is that if there is one institution which will know who donated to whom, that is the government. How? When this individual approaches a bank, for example, State Bank of India, it is a public sector bank and it is controlled by the government. That means the government will know that a particular individual has bought an electoral bond worth 10 crore rupees. But now this electoral bond is to be deposited into the bank account of a political party. What if this 10 crore is deposited into the bank account of an opposition political party, and now this bank account is under the auspices of RBI? Government can ask RBI, this money was deposited into whose bank account? So the only entity which will come to know who donated to whom is the government. In this case, what will happen? There are two serious problems which violate the free and fair elections in this country. And free and fair election is part of the basic structure of Indian Constitution. What are these fairs? Number one, all these transactions are anonymous. That means even if the political parties will not know who is donating to them, not even the larger public knows who donates to them. Let's say, for example, I am an environmentalist. I believe in environmental conservation. I believe in less pollution in the society. For that, I want to vote for that political party which believes in environmental activism. But what if there is an entity, there is a corporate entity which is known for causing pollution? What if this entity is donating to my favorite political party A? I will not vote for A, because if A has taken money from this entity, this political party will not believe in environmental conservation. That is why I should not vote for this particular political party. But now it is not known because of these electoral bonds. There is absolute secrecy in the way political parties are donated by the corporate entities. Not just that. If government knows who has bought these bonds, and these bonds have been deposited into the bank account of which opposition political party, then what government can do? Government can unleash enforcement directorates, CBI, so many other intelligence agencies, so many other institutions, and will cook false cases against these business units, against these individuals, against these businessmen, and ultimately they will be forced not to donate money to the opposition political parties, but will donate money only to the party in power. And this violates free and fair election. That is why all this and majority of this 1366 crore worth of electoral bonds which were sold in May, April and March, according to Election Commission, the majority of this money has been donated into the bank account of the ruling political party. There is already a petition pending in the Supreme Court, where Supreme Court has to decide the constitutional validity of these electoral bonds, but this matter is still pending in the Supreme Court. That is what you need to understand from this newspaper article. Now let's look at some of the editorials and columns from today's newspaper. Number one, from bad to worse. Is there a turnaround in Indian economy? Consumer vehicles, passenger vehicle sales in October 2019, they have increased compared to September 2019. Washing machines, television sets, refrigerator sales, they have also increased in October 2019 thanks to Diwali discounts and offers. But can we say Indian economy has made a turnaround for good? No. This editorial says it is getting worse. Commerce and Industry Ministry released its economic data. According to this data, the output of the core sector has contracted by a sharp 5.2% in September 2019. And this is its worst performance in the last 14 years. This points to a worsening of India's economic situation. What is this core sector? There are 8 industries in the core sector. These are 8 core industries: electricity, steel, refinery products, crude oil, coal, cement, natural gas, fertilizers. According to the weightage in this index, the highest weightage is provided to refinery, 28.04%. The lowest is provided to fertilizers, 2.63%. If this wasn't enough, there is another bad news. Data released by Center for Monitoring Indian Economy. It released the data which said unemployment rate in October is 8.5%. It was 7.2% in September. The problem is if growth falls, unemployment rate is bound to go up. This growth is falling despite RBI cutting the interest rates, that too by 135 basis points since February 2019. This editorial calls for structural reforms to address the economic problems. And I will tell you 3 important steps that the government can take, which is not mentioned in the editorial, but still I'm going to tell you. Number 1, there are close to 2.5 million jobs lying vacant in various state and central government institutions. Fill these posts on an urgent basis. Why? If we understand the problem in Indian economy right now, it is the problem of demand. People are not demanding goods and services. Why? Because they have no money. Or even if they have money, they want to save this money because they don't know what lies in store for them the next time around. That means there is some sense of despondency in India's economic situation. And that has to do with the falling demand, both in rural India as well as in urban India. How can we increase the demand? When more money is made available to the people, for that, let's fill these 2.5 million jobs so that more people will have money in their hands, and through this money, they can buy the consumer vehicles, passenger vehicles, they can buy scooters in rural India because even the scooter sales have fallen down. That is one way, one structural change that we can address. Second, the government should increase the budget for MG Narega. And third, tax terrorism must end, where the government is unleashing the tax authorities against the corporates, against the businessmen. This tax terrorism should end because private sector is today reluctant to invest because they don't know tomorrow which central agency which will catch hold of them. That is why there are structural changes which are required, and then our economy can have a turnaround. That is what you need to understand from this newspaper article. Now there is another important article written by Suhasini Haider, The Perils of Post-370 Diplomacy. On August 5 and 6, the relationship of Jammu and Kashmir with the Union of India was altered, perhaps forever. The special status accorded to the state of Jammu and Kashmir under Article 370 and 35 capital A, that special status was revoked. The state was bifurcated into 2 union territories. And post August 5 and 6, the Indian diplomacy is working overtime to convince the international community that whatever we have done in Jammu and Kashmir, that is in India's favor, that is India's internal matter, and outside pressure should not be enforced on India. But according to Suhasini Haider, 3 things have happened. Number 1, Jammu and Kashmir has become internationalized. And this internationalization of Kashmir did not happen since 1994. What are the signs which point to internationalization of the Kashmir? Number 1, United Nations Security Council met in a closed door meeting. All the 5 permanent members of the Security Council met, and that was for the first time in more than 50 years. Although no formal resolution was passed at the end of this UN Security Council meeting, but this was the first ever meeting on Kashmir in 50 years. That means Kashmir has been internationalized post Article 370 abrogation. That's number 1. Number 2, the members belonging to European Union Parliament were sent to Kashmir to have a hands-on experience on what is happening in Kashmir. But most of these MPs belong to far-right category, anti-Islamists, anti-immigration, pro-Brexit individuals, parliamentarians. And some of these far-right EU parliamentarians also believed in the Nazi ideology. And if they believed in Nazi ideology, do you think the German Chancellor Merkel would remain quiet. She didn't. And yesterday she said that situation in Jammu and Kashmir for Kashmiris is unsustainable. And I will raise this Kashmir issue with Prime Minister Modi. That means Kashmir has been internationalized. Not just that, Organization of Islamic Countries, they also issued a statement. And in 1994, when Human Rights Council of United Nations had to issue a resolution against India, at that point in time, the Congress Prime Minister P.V. Narasimha Rao sent a high-powered delegation of opposition leaders. Atal Bihari Vajpayee was sent to United Nations. Dr. Farooq Abdullah, who is now under Public Safety Act, was sent to United Nations. Congress leader Salman Khurshid was sent to United Nations, and they took up India's cause very forcefully, and ultimately Pakistan was forced to withdraw its resolution against India before the United Nations Human Rights Council could vote on this resolution. But now it has been internationalized. Second, India has now been re-hyphenated with Pakistan. For decades, the Indian foreign policy makers and diplomats have been trying to persuade the international community that you should not equate India with Pakistan. Because whenever you should talk about Pakistan, you should talk about the terrorism emanating from Pakistan. You should talk about the support Pakistan is providing to jihadi groups in Pakistan who are ranting against India, who are brainwashing youngsters, and they are entering into India to wreak havoc in India, to create terror in India. So whenever you talk about Pakistan, you should talk about the terrorism emanating from Pakistan. You should not hyphenate India and Pakistan together, because we have our own aspirations. We have our own growth story. So India and Pakistan should not be linked with each other. But now what has happened? When Balakot attack took place, when Indian Air Force crossed the line of control, entered deep into Pakistan for the first time, which didn't happen even during the 1971 war. Then our pilot, brave pilot Abhinandan, was captured by the Pakistani troops, and it is said that Donald Trump, UAE, Qatar, they have played important role in persuading and pressurizing Pakistan to release Abhinandan. In fact, Donald Trump claimed success, that it was me who facilitated the release of Indian pilot captured by Pakistan. And now Donald Trump is talking about mediation on Jammu and Kashmir. World leaders are now openly talking about mediating between India and Pakistan so that this Kashmir issue is resolved. In fact, the European Union parliamentarians, at least one of them also said that European Union can play the role of a broker between India and Pakistan. So these are the three things that have happened because of these decisions taken by the central government and the parliament on August 5 and 6. But according to Suhasini Heather, it has had spillover effect as well. What is the spillover effect? Today, United States is discussing National Registry of Citizens. It is discussing no first use nuclear doctrine, because till date our nuclear policy is no first use. We will not be the first ones to use the nuclear weapons. Only when we are attacked, we will employ our nuclear weapons and we will destroy our enemy. But now Defense Minister Rajnath Singh has said that we are going to have a rethink on no first use nuclear doctrine. And the spillover effect of the changes made in Jammu and Kashmir are that now foreign countries and foreign powers are meddling into purely internal affairs of India. That is what you need to understand from this newspaper article. Now this column written by Prateek Sinha, we have covered in the second newspaper item that we discussed today. It's related to the WhatsApp breach. And that's what I discussed therein when I said follow the money trail. That was in response to this column written in today's The Hindu newspaper. There is another important column, Unearthing an Ancient Civilization. But this also we have covered in our 20th September 2019 The Hindu newspaper analysis. Please go through that video lecture and this newspaper article will become clear to you. The link to that video lecture is also provided in the video description. Now let's look at some of the prelims based questions. Number 1, zero-day exploit is related to computer software vulnerability. Question number 2, the Indian Computer Emergency Response Team comes under which of the following ministries? It comes under Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. It was set up in the year 2004. An important note on CERTIN is that all organizations which are providing digital services have been mandated to report cybersecurity incidents to this organization expeditiously. Prelims question 2019. Recently, there was a growing awareness in our country about the importance of Himalayan nettle because it is found to be a sustainable source of textile fiber. Let's look at the mains-based question. India needs a more informed debate, a better policy designed to address population growth. Comment. This has been taken from today's Indian Express newspaper. That is it from our newspaper analysis for today. Thank you for being with us. Have a great day.